You don't outsmart credit card companies with complexity. That's what they want. That's their home field. That's where they win. Because the more moving parts you add, the more chances you have to slip. So how do you cut through their game so you actually have a chance of winning? You beat them with simplicity. By running a system that's so simple, you can execute it perfectly when you're tired, busy, or distracted. You become unprofitable because their whole edge comes from your friction and fatigue. Companies don't need you to make a huge mistake. They just need you to make small mistakes, repeatedly. Missed activation, annual fee you forgot, bonus you chased, or a balance you carried, even for only 1 month. That's where the machine eats you up. So here's the cleanest way to beat credit card companies' reward maze. The two-card system. Not 5 cards, not rotating categories, not spreadsheets. 2 cards. One default card, one specialist card, and one rule that matters. Card 1 is your default, the everything card. The card you use for basically every purchase without thinking. It should be simple, a solid flat return on everything. No categories, no activation, no enroll to earn. You're not trying to win a leaderboard, you're trying to make errors impossible. Card 2 is the specialist, the category card. You use it only for the one category where you spend real money every single month, whether you try to or not. Groceries, gas, dining, online shopping. Pick the one that's actually big in your life, not the one that sounds optimized, the one that shows up in your bank statement like a recurring tax. And now the important rule that turns this from tips into an actual strategy. Auto pay the statement balance every month. Full statement balance, not minimum, not I'll pay it later, full. If you can't pay in full, don't play the points game because points are bait for interest. That's the whole trick. Sounds simple? It is. Here's why this beats most maximizers. Because maximizers usually lose in the real world, not in theory. Just like gamblers in a casino, they probably tell you about their gains, but they are quiet about their missteps. They forget to activate categories. They use the wrong card. They assume a store counts as grocery, and it codes as something else. They pay annual fees and don't use the credits. They chase bonuses and inflate spending. They end up spending hours managing a system that pays them less than they think. 2 cards fixes that. It collapses your decision-making. Default card and specialist card. Done. Once you see how the companies make money, you'll stop chasing shiny strategies that accidentally feed them. First, they get paid every time you swipe, even if you never pay interest. People don't like hearing that because they think the only way the card company wins is if you carry a balance. That's not true. Interest is huge, yes, but swipes are always money. Every swipe has a processing fee baked into it. The merchant pays it, then quietly bakes it into prices. So you pay it either way, cash or card, because merchants don't run charities. Then, the issuer hands you a tiny rebate of the fee you've already paid, and you feel like you outsmarted the system. That's the illusion. They're not giving you money. They're sharing a sliver of what your swipe already generated. Second, they win on breakage. Breakage is the polite word for benefits you didn't actually use, points you never redeem, credits you forget, categories you didn't activate, perks you didn't enroll in, gift cards you didn't click, portal bonuses you didn't track, redemption rules you didn't notice until it was too late. Complexity is how they create breakage at scale. Third, they win on penalties and timing, late fees, return payments, interest charges. cash advance fees, balance transfer fees, penalty APRs, and the silent one nobody thinks about. The moment you lose your grace period, interest starts accruing fast. A single month carrying a balance can wipe out a year of rewards on normal spending. That's why I keep hammering auto-pay statement balance like it's a religion. Because it is. It's the line between you earn something and you're the product. Now let's talk about the trap that makes rewards maximizing a losing game for normal people. Decision density. If your system requires constant decisions, you will fail. Not because you're dumb, because you're human. Most people are not going to remember which card gets which category on a random Tuesday when they're stressed, hungry, and in a hurry. They're not going to remember to activate rotating categories every quarter. They're not going to argue with customer support about merchant category codes. They're not going to track whether a purchase posted as restaurant or entertainment or hotel or travel. They're not going to document everything for portal tracking. Now let's get more insider about the stuff that secretly wrecks people. Merchant coding is real. It decides your reward category. It's not based on what you think the store is. It's based on how the business is coded in the payment network. A grocery store can code like a superstore. A cafe inside a grocery store can code differently than the grocery store. A delivery app might code like online services instead of dining. A gas station with a big convenience store might not code how you expect. And the reason you never hear about this in the cheerful maximize your points videos is because it ruins the fantasy. It turns simple tips into welcome to a weird classification system you don't control. This is also why rotating 5% category cards are such a trap for normal people. They're built on activation plus coding, plus remembering, plus switching, plus caps and limits. Those cards aren't designed for the average person to win. They're designed to look generous in a headline and quietly underpay in practice. Another quiet trap: annual fee math. Annual fees are not automatically bad, but most people justify them with imaginary behavior. They plan to use the credits. They plan to travel more. They plan to use the lounge. They plan to remember to enroll. They plan to redeem points at high value. Plans aren't redemptions. Annual fee cards rely on you being optimistic and busy. If you have to work to break even, most people won't, and the companies know it. That's why credits have restrictions. That's why they expire. That's why they require specific booking channels. That's why the value is never as clean as the marketing. So when I say the two-card system, I'm also telling you, stop paying for complexity. Stop paying for the fantasy version of your life. Build a system for the real one. Now, the two cards, how you choose them without falling into another trap. The default card should be the one that pays you well on everything without conditions. No rotating, no activation, no up to, no select merchants. You want consistency because consistency is what makes you unprofitable. The category card should be for one category you hit constantly. Most people should pick groceries or dining because that's where money quietly disappears every month. Gas can be big too, depending on your life. Online shopping if you're that person. The point is not what's trendy. The point is what's real. And here's the rule the points community hates because it ruins the hobby. You only get paid on spending you were already going to do. Rewards don't turn spending into earning. Rewards turn spending into slightly less spending if you were going to spend anyway. That's why welcome bonuses are dangerous. They feel like a win, but they often change behavior. They turn your month into a mission. Spend X by Y, hit the threshold, unlock the reward, They don't care how you do it. They just want volume. That's why they love "you're so close" messaging. That's why they love progress bars. They turn your brain into a hamster wheel. So the safe churn light rule is this: only take a bonus when you can hit it with normal spending you already had planned. A planned expense. A normal month. A purchase you were making anyway. Not "I'll find stuff to buy." Not "I'll prepay things." Not "I'll stockpile." If you have to invent spending, they already won. Now let me explain what the rich do differently, because people get this wrong. The rich don't hack rewards with genius tricks. They win because they can run the system clean. They pay in full. Always. They auto-pay. They don't miss payments. They don't carry balances. They don't panic. They don't get hit with penalty APRs. They don't need to float expenses on interest. They also have high, predictable spend that isn't emotionally driven. Business travel, advertising, inventory, normal life expenses at scale. They're not chasing points to feel better. They're collecting rebates on spending that was going to happen anyway. That's why the rich can make points look easy. It's not because they're smarter. It's because they don't bleed out through the penalty layer. For normal people, the penalty layer is where the damage happens. That's why the two-card system isn't basic, it's strategic. It reduces the surface area where you can get hit. Now, let's make this practical. How you actually run it so the tired version of you still wins. You set the default card everywhere. Wallet, phone, online shopping, subscriptions. Anything that's not your main category goes on the default card. That way you're never thinking. Thinking is where people mess up. Then you use the specialist card only for your big category. And you keep a one-line note reminding you which card is which on your phone if you need it. Not a spreadsheet. One sentence. Card 2 is groceries. That's it. Also, understand the difference between statement balance and current balance, because people screw this up constantly. Statement balance is what you owe for the last billing cycle. Paying that in full keeps your grace period intact and prevents interest on purchases. Current balance includes new charges that posted after the statement cut. You don't have to zero out the card every day. You have to pay the statement balance by the due date. That's how you avoid interest. That's how you avoid becoming the product. Now, one more quiet reality that's worth saying out loud. If you're carrying a balance, the game is over. For now. Not because you're a bad person. Because math. Rewards rates are small. Interest rates are big. If you're paying interest, the points are a rounding error. The most elite reward strategy is getting out of interest. Period. Once you're paying in full again, then rewards become a bonus instead of a trap. So when you see someone bragging about maximizing points while carrying a balance, you're not looking at a winner. You're looking at someone being marketed to. Now let's talk about why they push you toward complexity so hard. Because complexity creates three things: confusion, fatigue, and surrender. Confusion makes you stop tracking. Fatigue makes you stop caring. Surrender makes you accept whatever the statement says. That's why customer service scripts are so circular. That's why disputes are slow. Redemption rules are tedious. They don't need to deny you every time. They need to make it annoying enough that you stop fighting. If you don't have to fight, you win. That's why the two-card system is the cleanest way to beat them at their own game. It's not a hack. It's not a flex. It's a strategy built around one idea: remove failure points. One flat rate card for almost everything. One category card for your biggest recurring category. Auto pay the full statement balance. Never carry a balance. That's how you beat them. By becoming the customer they can't profit from. Thanks for watching. This channel looks at how modern systems are designed, how control, incentives, and authority are embedded in everyday arrangements that are rarely described honestly. Understanding those systems doesn't reverse them, but it does restore awareness. I hope this helped you see what's really happening behind the fine print.